I want to first start just to get your response to the sound we played of JD Vance in the previous segment, where he basically says he's going after Randy Weingarten, and he basically says, like, if you don't have your own children, like, stay the hell away from ours. You shouldn't be a teacher involved in education if you don't have your own children. And this is now a whole body of stuff where he really seems to have it out for folks that don't have kids. I'm just curious your reaction to that.
The guy is a weirdo. It's really quite.
All I know is no, sir, you will not get a third term. That's not gonna happen. I mean, the Supreme Court gonna have to find a big boy and big girl panties.
Ready because Jasmine Crockett just flattened JD Vance and Donald Trump in a way that was equal parts ruthless and hilarious. Think of it as a political pancake press, and yes, I'm holding the syrup. Metaphors flew like fireworks, wigs practically vanished, and some political careers might need emergency resuscitation. If you think you've seen drama before, stop right now. Nothing you've seen compares. What Crockett said wasn't just bold, it should come with a seatbelt and a fire extinguisher. Stick with me because this wasn't a televised moment. It was total obliteration.
That's exactly right. And a reasonable response to fascism, to Nazism would be violence, right? So what they're saying effectively is that you should engage in violence because the regime, using Jasmine Crockett's words, are so bad. Look, this is obvious. They're obviously using the kind of rhetoric that turns
when you're in a legislative body, you control everything. So if the government shuts down, it's on y'all. Just like the last government shutdowns we had were under this same president. In fact, the longest that we've ever had in the history of this country.
Politics has delivered its share of absurd moments, but nothing compares to the ripple effect Crockett triggered without breaking a sweat. No shouting matches, no over-the-top theatrics, no long-winded monologues, just sharp, accurate commentary wrapped in sarcasm. Suddenly, JD Vance and Trump weren't just politicians, they became cautionary tales, living examples of what happens when the spotlight finds you unprepared.
It's really quite simple, and I thought that it was a really good point that was raised about those sisters that teach kids like me, because I actually went to Catholic middle school, so I absolutely know what that's like, and so I am curious to know.
If you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a moment. The roast didn't stop at Vance. Trump, the political comeback machine who pops up like an annoying software update you can't uninstall, became collateral satire. Crockett implied his resurgence wasn't a triumphant return, but more like a carnival act, complete with weekend performances by someone who peaked decades ago. Nobody needed to spell it out. The imagery said it all.
The Constitution is very clear, sir. And frankly, you never should have had one term. If I'm gonna be perfectly honest, you were never qualified to be president of the United States, not once, but definitely not twice. And your incompetencies are showing. Your own people, yes, my homegirl Marjorie Taylor Greene is also very disappointed in you. Listen, you are a loser. And unfortunately, we all are being dragged down with you.
Everything shifted the second Crockett stopped pretending bad behavior deserved politeness. JD Vance got lumped into a category usually reserved for malfunctioning AI, one day standing for one thing, the next day something else entirely. Crockett turned those flip-flops into comedic gold. Every inconsistency became a punchline, every flip a visual gag that audiences couldn't ignore.
I don't know why so many people had amnesia when they decided to go out and vote for this again, but we knew we were gonna get more chaos and dysfunction, so no, you in control, do what you do, big boy. Let's see what happens. And so, I cast my no vote because ain't nobody come at me and ask me what the people in my district need. Right. They didn't ask me what would look good for those in South Dallas. Right. They didn't ask me about that. So listen, I got people that I serve that are counting on me to do their work and to be their voice and not work for him. I don't work for him. He can't hire.
Trump's ideological contradictions got treated like a math problem with a twisted sense of humor. Each shift mapped like coordinates on a graph. If President A travels from delusion to confusion at top speed, how many U-turns before he vanishes into his own contradictions? It was part roast, part masterclass in absurdity, delivered with surgical precision.
I think that it is showing that he was well aware and he was trying to cover his tracks at that point in time. And I think that that's what you saw from Jeffrey. Obviously, it'd be better if we could talk to Jeffrey today, but it was very interesting that ultimately Jeffrey Epstein died sitting in prison during Trump's administration.
She never had to say it outright. The satirical undertones hung in the air like a scent no one could ignore. Vance's endless ideological shifts became Congress's unofficial entertainment. His loyalty to Trump didn't seem strategic. It looked like a chaotic habit repeated for no reason. Crockett painted him as a political GPS with a signal so unreliable even satellites would give up. Every position he adopted felt less about strategy, more about confusing the audience enough to applaud out of exhaustion. Trump became the dramatic headliner who thinks the show needs him. Ratings be damned. Vance the sidekick, thinking his loyalty was noble instead of tragic. America the audience, squinting to see if someone misplaced the script.
With all the conspiracies that this White House and this administration is constantly putting out, the best thing that we can do is have some proof for those that actually want to know the truth. So I hope that we can get that video footage, but last I checked, we're still having problems getting the rest of these Epstein files out of the Department of Justice. So I'm not really sure. It seems like the Attorney General is too busy trying to figure out if the president is tweeting her about something or truthing her or whatever.
Crockett's precision cut through the chaos like a laser. She didn't need to yell. Her clarity was enough. Trump's credibility unraveled with a calm, descriptive brilliance that made listeners mentally take notes as if attending a masterclass in planning failures. Vance became a man with a political GPS that only gives directions when you're already lost. The comedy wasn't aggressive. It was artful, turning political behavior into a performance as skillful as a painter turning blank canvases into masterpieces. Every satirical strike landed like a seasoned comedian timing the perfect punchline. The surrealism of watching both men fumble through reality was unforgettable. One moment it was Vance trying to maintain a coherent persona, the next, Trump constructing political skyscrapers out of cardboard and wishful thinking.
Representative Marlon Stutzman earlier, he's a Republican, and he tried to make the case that President Trump is the most investigated person in the world, and he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing here. What do you make of that?
Listen, they will do and say anything to cover themselves. You know, I will admit that Donald Trump has been investigated more than the normal, but he just happens to be more corrupt and more criminal than any other president than we've had. I will point out he is the only president who has been convicted of 34 felony convictions that we've ever had.
Crockett never played the aggressor. She didn't have to. She didn't attack feelings. She exposed patterns. And once the patterns were visible, comedy wrote itself. Vance became the embodiment of applause over purpose, Trump the image of a man refusing to leave the stage. Together they formed a cinematic duo directed by satire. Every comparison hit like a meteor. Vance's ideological flips became a sitcom montage of costume changes. Trump's political attempts a parade float held together by tape and optimism. No yelling, no insults, just surgical precision that hit harder than any loud confrontation. Vance's career seemed like a never-ending reboot, rearranging furniture in a burning house, hoping the flames would subside. Crockett turned ambition into absurdity, and watching it unfold was both hilarious and staggering.
Last week, I talked about if there was one disappointment I had is the fact that, you know, there wasn't an aggressive prosecution on the now president of the United States, because maybe he could have been sitting somewhere not bothering the rest of us if we had just kind of done our part and made sure there was prosecutions that went forward a little quicker. But as it relates to this particular thing, I think it is important for the American people to understand that when it comes to things such as conspiracy, which is laid out in this letter, it's not whether or not the underlying offense actually...
Trump didn't escape scrutiny. Crockett turned his political comeback into a theme park ride called the Nostalgia Express, where people remember the thrill without expecting safety. Vance trying to impress Trump looked like a talent show audition for judges who stopped paying attention years ago. Trump accepting it felt like polite recognition of a meaningless gesture. The pairing wasn't strategy, it was pure dramatic irony. By now, the roast had full cinematic weight. No shouting, no tension, just an unfolding narrative of absurdity. Crockett highlighted that leadership shouldn't look like improv theater, and professionalism shouldn't resemble cosplay.
Yes, that is clear. That Jeffrey Epstein had something to hang over his head. Why else or how else could you have a debt that you are able to? Now, exactly what it was, who knows, right? And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. But the fact that Trump does not want these files to be out, to me, says that he has more to hide than him actually being able to.
The climax was incredible. Crockett never shouted or performed. She simply described reality until it embarrassed itself. Vance went from aspiring thinker to punchline about misplaced loyalty. Trump from political Titan to mascot of endless confidence. Without confrontation, Crockett became the comedic narrator of the era. Every jab landed on truth, no exaggeration needed. By holding up a mirror, she destroyed reputations quietly but completely. Vance the eternal shapeshifter, Trump the nostalgic franchise refusing to close, and Crockett the accidental comedian emerged unscathed, calm, precise, and devastatingly effective.
One of you know the definition of insanity?
I think you're referring to doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Oh, okay. That's exactly what I was referring to. And it sounds like that is what you know that you didn't do anything. Then why is it that you would be twisting members of your own party's arms, trying to get them not to release it? This would be exonerating. If you know that you are free and clear, then why not say, you know what, release the files? In fact, he campaigned on releasing the files because he didn't realize that anything that he was involved in whatsoever was involved.
Rarely does a political moment become a cultural event overnight. The remarkable thing? Crockett didn't need to try. No argument, no theatrics, just honesty, timing, and sarcasm. With that, she redefined political roasting. History has seen debates, hearings, showdowns, but nothing compares to Crockett turning civic discourse into a comedy event while taking down Trump and Vance's political personas. And when the dust settled, the audience kept replaying it, like a perfectly executed sitcom episode. Vance embodied misguided dedication, Trump a nostalgia-fueled act, and neither offered a counterpoint. The universe simply pressed replay.
Number one, it is clear that he knew what was going on, which I think that he's kind of alluded to that at some point in time, because the president said that he was trying to kick Ghislaine out of Mar-a-Lago because it seems like that's where girls were being recruited from based on information that we have. But more importantly is that he was having conversation, he being Jeffrey Epstein, with Michael Wolff, who is writing this book or trying to put together this book. And in real time, as Trump is running for his first presidential run, we hear or we see that he made it clear that he believes that he has leverage over Trump. And he said that a Trump regime would basically open up, this is me paraphrasing, this is not exactly what he said, but basically it'd be a free-for-all. And as we've seen, especially in this second term, it's been a...
Commentators scrambled to explain the chaos, like parents tidying a house before guests arrive, spinning excuses, rearranging narratives. But once Crockett held up the mirror, nothing could hide the reflection. Vance's contradictions became public dominoes, Trump's reruns were comedy gold, and Crockett stayed above the fray. No gloating, no theatrics, no overplaying the moment. Her calm made the destruction look even sharper. Vance seemed lost without instructions. Trump like a legacy relying on repetition. The contrast was cinematic. If history books have humor, this moment deserves its own chapter. One woman held a mirror, two men blinked, the world laughed at truth, and political comedy reached a new standard. A roast that never tried to roast, yet became legendary. Loved Crockett roasting Vance and Trump? Subscribe and hit the bell to catch all the chaos only on Jacob Reports. Don't miss it.